Hazbin Hotel has been back in the news lately thanks to its promo art and use of the Twitter account, indicating that the show is really gearing into production, as well as the less fortunate news about recasting a lot of the characters from the pilot. With that in mind, I thought now would be a good time to talk about my predictions for the show. My name is Deepcut, welcome back to Cartoon Universe, and make sure you hit that subscribe button because I'll definitely be adjusting these theories and predictions once we get a trailer for the series, and you won't want to miss that. Now let's dive into it. VivziePop has said that she wants at least 3 seasons to tell her story, so while the title of this video is about Season 1, I'll really be talking about the arc I see for the series as a whole, but I'm not going in blind here. In live streams, VivziePop has said a lot about the show before the pilot even came out, and while a lot has likely changed from those early developing stages to now, the general themes she talks about are enough to really dive into here. When it comes to Helluva Boss, for instance, VivziePop talks about how she sees the characters as children just beginning to understand the concepts of morality and trying to figure out what it means for them. When it comes to the Hazbin Hotel characters, however, she has made remarks about them being experienced and mature enough that they need to get their shit together when seemingly dealing with potential plots that VivziePop plans to throw at them, as well as that they all will need to face reality at some point. The show, of course, is premised on Charlie, the Princess of Hell, trying to open up a rehabilitation center that will help sinners get redeemed and perhaps give them access to heaven. This is not being done because of the more general suffering of what it means to be a sinner trapped inside the Pride Ring and under Lucifer's rule, but rather she is doing this because of Hell's overpopulation issue. Sinners are immortal, they cannot reproduce in Hell, but as humans they generally reproduce on Earth, and with the Earth's population being a bit of a problem in real life with just the currently alive people, Hell, containing everyone in all of history who could not make it to heaven, are becoming too large of a population to control. Because of this, angels known as exorcists come down once a year for an annual extermination. Despite sinners being immortal in terms of age and general violence inflicted on each other, the exorcists have special weapons that are capable of killing a sinner permanently, which VivziePop says leads to the sinner's soul just dissolving into the general energy of hell, with the person no longer experiencing memories or consciousness of any sort. It is interesting to note that in some live streams, VivziePop has said that Lucifer actually coordinates with Hell to facilitate the annual exterminations, so in many ways it is his fault that this is happening. With Charlie trying to find an alternative that doesn't end in the death of the people she sees herself as needing to take care of as the princess of all of Hell. The problem with this is that VivziePop has said that Charlie's approach to running the hotel will be treating clients such as Angel like they are children, punishing them with things like timeouts instead of helping them work through their deeper issues that cause them to do what counts as sinful behavior in the show. As the daughter of Lucifer, Charlie seems to have been protected from the masses of Hell. While she has some freedom as an adult now, I don't imagine she was out there experiencing the horror and carnage of Hell as a child that a natural-born imp child might, for instance. Instead, Charlie would live a life with parents and servants taking care of her, not being tempted into the great sinful opportunities that are everywhere in Hell, and being taught to behave with simple punishments like a timeout, as opposed to learning the complexities of morality. To put it simply, Charlie has been given enough money and comfort in life that she would never need to turn to a lot of the so-called sinful behaviors that other demons do, whether that is crime against another demon in order to make money to support themselves, or doing something like taking drugs in order to deal with the harsh reality of life in Hell. This, of course, will not be how Charlie goes through the entire series, however, as the point of a story is that the characters grow in it before reaching their ending. Right now, Angel is technically the only client at the hotel, but it has been implied that the extended cast, which is largely staff at the hotel, are also going to be going through their own arcs and journeys as Charlie tries to help them redeem themselves as well, whether they want it or not. And all of these characters are going to need to address issues in their life that made them end up in Hell, or rather, in their own personal hell. I say personal hell because it's been heavily implied that heaven is corrupt, perhaps just as much as hell is. In episode 4 of Helluva Boss, for instance, the Cherub commercial has one angel implying that many people get into heaven because bribes, using gestures and sarcastic tones to make it sound like you're just slipping a restaurant waiter $20 to give you a table even though you don't have a reservation. While I'm sure there will be some experiments and debates done between the elites of hell and heaven in order to see if someone could truly be rehabilitated and gain entry into heaven, I imagine this will fall flat on its face. I can imagine an episode, either early on or later in the series, where the Hazbin Hotel crew gets just a day pass to visit heaven and share their ideas of rehabilitation with some angels, and the chaos that would ensue with characters like Angel or Alastor just being let loose on heaven and causing mischief, even when they're not trying to be particularly evil. I mean, imagine Angel Dust trying to seduce some important archangel, and Alastor just asking cherubs if they ever roasted one of the lamb-based angels to see what she tasted like. By the end of that day, they would all just be kicked out. I can also see by the end of the series that Charlie might be the only one actually offered a home in heaven. While she is the daughter of Lucifer, Lucifer himself is a fallen angel, meaning he lived in heaven at one point. I could see them seeing Charlie's upbeat personality as a sign of her angelic side shining through, and give her the option to move to heaven as well. This of course would mean leaving behind everything and everyone she knows, not just Vaggie or the people at Hazbin Hotel, but even the masses of demons in hell that she sees herself as having some sort of responsibility to take care of, so she would ultimately turn down this opportunity. But that of course can't be where the series ends regardless, with the characters being rejected from heaven and simply giving up. And truthfully, them just getting into heaven would not be very satisfying in terms of story and character. I think that the Addict music video shows what the true ending of the series is aiming to be, which is stopping the behaviors that created their personal hells and trying to create their own personal heavens together. At the end of the day, the reason hell is such a horrible place is because of elites that control every aspect of the sinners' lives. This isn't limited to just Lucifer, as he seems a lot more interested in his own projects like Lulu World than truly ruling over everyone else, but rather even other sinners like Vox, Velvet, and Valentino are to blame. These are overlords who don't just run industries like TV and movies, but also the drug trade, who build out businesses with the intent of milking as much money as possible from people without worrying about how much they are suffering just trying to stay in a home, for instance. Even Angel, who is supposed to be one of the most famous porn stars in all of hell, lives in a tiny, crummy apartment. I'm sure a lot of this is because he spends his excess cash on drugs, don't get me wrong, but that is the problem with the structure in hell. It encourages you to spend everything you have on any sin you can instead of saving it to better your life. Whether you agree or not with something being sinful on an objective moral level, you can understand why certain lifestyle behaviors such as drugs or pornography have ill effects on the people who are doing them. Angel isn't being punished with fire and torture like in traditional ideas of hell, but rather he is given every opportunity to sabotage himself at every turn, and he gives into it. The Attic music video ends with a post-credits sequence, where Angel admits to himself that the real addiction he has is the feeling of sorrow and self-loathing he gets once the drugs wear off. The familiar feeling of being at your worst and just enjoying the pity party you throw for yourself. But when he has a moment of remembering the worst parts of how he got there, particularly the way that Valentino uses him sexually as part of their ongoing working relationship, he finally puts down his drugs without finishing them. His final lines, "Maybe things won't be so terrible inside this hotel," aren't because he suddenly believes in Charlie's mission statement to get them into heaven, but because he is starting to realize that he can make his own little personal heaven by turning away from his vices and focusing on making a better life for himself, one that he is finally understanding can't involve drugs, as he can't have both the drugs and a good life. From here, I think the other characters would begin to grow in the same way, all dealing with their actual trauma and issues together, with the hotel being a safe, rent-free place for them to support each other, to keep each other in check and not have all of their resources stolen from them by hypnotizing sinful opportunities that line every street's markets. This, of course, would not be something that all of hell would be a part of, but perhaps by creating their own little system and building outward, the series can end with the idea that eventually they will create something of a safe haven in hell for people who don't want to be involved with the sinful aspects. Finally, there is the issue of the exorcists. I don't think that Lucifer will be convinced to stop the annual exterminations, and they will need to be addressed. Towards the end of the series, I could see another annual extermination happening, and Charlie deciding that she wants to make her final stand. The pilot opened with everyone hiding from the exterminators, all trying to just avoid being killed, but considering on just how many sinners exist in hell, they could easily outnumber the exterminators. characters. I would not be surprised to see Charlie starting an uprising, led by her friends at the Happy Hotel, all deciding that it's time to fight back against the exterminators. This in turn would inspire other demons, even more of the vile kind, to join in the fight as well, using their resources to fight against the angels, and from there, who knows what could happen. I personally love a show that ends with a good death, and in this kind of battle, it would be perfect for Charlie to meet her demise. As sad as it would be very fitting. We all know the story of Jesus as the Son of God being sacrificed in order to pay for the sins of humanity. Yet here in hell, we see all of the sinners suffering for their sins, and then eventually having their existences erased by these angels with their angelic weapons. Having Charlie die in this battle would be the perfect inversion of the story of Jesus, with Charlie being the daughter of the devil as opposed to the Son of God. Her death would be one that actually symbolizes forgiving these demons for their sins, giving up her life so that they don't have to be erased for the crimes that they themselves committed. But keep in mind that even if I get some ideas right, the show is going to be much more complex than anything we can theorize with what we know. But it's fun to think about what might happen while we wait for the release of the real series, which a lot of signs point to coming out at the end of this year. Let me know what theories you guys have in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.